Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Wonder of Anime podcast. I'm your host, Lisa. I am a multimedia anime content creator, and my work spans across my YouTube channel, my website, and of course, this podcast. Today, I am so excited to have someone you may not recognize, someone you've probably never seen anywhere before. He's a little-known voice actor named Zeno Robinson.
I'm on the up and up.
Just he plays minor characters like Hawks in My Hero.
Yeah, he doesn't. So
Just in a released video game, no big deal. In Persona, I think your character is Junpei.
yeah, he like shows up at one point during the game. Kind of can't get rid of him, sort of thing.
No big deal, but he's here to taking time out of his busy schedule to talk to us about one of his favorites anime, which I'm so excited about. But before we get into that, I want to know a little bit about your history with anime, because obviously you work in the anime industry. One would say, you could be a fan, you could not be a fan. How did you get into how did you get into anime?
Yeah, to quell all the doubters out there, I would say I'm not a real anime fan. There are no doubters. Anime was introduced to me through I think one of two ways, and like my brain, I don't know if it can remember the first instance, but it's either I always say it was either Pokemon or Sailor Moon. My dad used to go to Blockbuster whenever I would get to spend time with him. He used to take me to Blockbuster every single time, and I would always pick the same like videos, which was Sailor Moon and Sonic the Hedgehog, the animated show. And I think those are my like earliest memories. I think my earliest memories of anime was like Sailor Moon and potentially Pokemon. I just don't know which one came first. I don't know which one I watched first. I don't know which one I was a fan of first. I can't remember that far back. But that's my introduction to anime. And then, of course, we had Dragon Ball Z on Cartoon Network, like on Toonami, and like I grew up like with the Dragon Ball Z games and toys, and I think that was the first time but I didn't know anime was anime until Naruto on Toonami on Cartoon Network. That was when I was like, oh, this is like a different thing, like it's a different medium. It's not called a cartoon, it's called an anime. But beforehand, they were just all like cartoons to me.
And I feel like that makes sense. I like the earlier anime that we got, like Sailor Moon and Pokemon, were edited. I know this now. Were edited to be like American cartoons, so you don't recognize that they're like these actually go in order.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember also like that same time frame, like Pokemon, Sailor Moon was definitely my first, but then I had gone to the Dominican Republic. When I came back, Pokemon was like it. I think it was 1999. But then at the same time was Digimon and Cardcaptor Sakura.
Yeah. So maybe Sailor Moon was first for me. Maybe it was Sailor Moon first before Pokemon came around. I just remember like I had this like this Bye Bye Butterfree is like burned into my memory.
That was iconic though.
It was the first like ever thing that made me feel emotions as a child. I was like, why am I sad? Yeah, so it could be that. It could have been Bye Bye Butterfree.
There were some emotionally charged episodes, because I specifically remember the day and time when Ash was fighting the Pokemon League and he did not win.
And he didn't win, and you spent all this time cheering, and it's like when I was a kid, I used to watch wrestling a lot, and like my favorite wrestler was like The Rock, and so I would always like stay tuned to watch The Rock wrestle. And every time The Rock lost, I would cry. Like every time he lost, I would turn off the TV and I would cry. Like SmackDown would end. The Rock would be like in the middle of the ring twitching, like, and I would be like, oh my God, I'm so heartbroken. I'm shattered that I can't believe my hero lost, so yeah.
I I remember watching wrestling too. I feel like all these like this moment we had like such a monoculture when we were younger, so like we all have these same memories.
Yeah, the same story, the same everything. We were raised the same.
We were living the same life. But no, I love that you were like sad about The Rock losing. Because I think at that time I didn't know wrestling was like, I don't want to say fake, but like staged.
I didn't know it was fake either. I was like, and people try to tell me like, no, you saw the blood. They're like, no, it's clearly not fake.
We're being gaslit. That's children.
Yeah.
No, but that I love that, and it's funny now to see Sailor Moon Pokemon still such huge impacts today,
Right.
and like
Right.
I feel kind of like what we got on, like it's still here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
a little proud of that. But that being said, getting now into the main part of the show where I have you in the expert seat. I'm calling you the expert. This is me, so nobody, no, nobody better come after you. Like he said, he
Right.
was the expert. I said that you're the expert
Mhm.
on an anime that you picked, and I'm so
Yes.
excited because I always start this part saying like my history with this anime. I have
Okay.
none. I have
Nice.
I've
Good.
never watched it. I just heard about it recently when I was at Anime NYC for the Studio Trigger panel.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, and like the fans be fanning for this show. So you're here and you're gonna talk about, we practiced this like 300 times, so mess it up.
Okay.
Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
Lagan.
Gurren Lagann.
Lagan. See, almost.
Lagan.
Lagan.
Almost.
I was this
Um,
close.
yeah. Hopefully by the end of it, by the end of my explanation, maybe you have no history, so maybe we can change that by the end of this discussion here. Okay. Are you
I'm
are you
hoping.
you're hoping? Okay. Have you watched Kill la Kill?
Yes, I have seen most of Kill la Kill.
Okay. Have you seen Premiere?
No, and I want to.
Premiere is very good. So this is so Kill la Kill. I'll go with what you know. Kill la Kill is animated by a studio called Studio Trigger. You went to the Studio Trigger panel beforehand. A little history. Before Studio Trigger was Studio Trigger, two of the main founders of Studio Trigger were working at this incredible anime studio named Gainax. Gainax is infamous for the you've seen it in Kill la Kill, this pose, the Gainax pose. That was their bag. They made animes such as Gunbuster and Diebuster, and they were known for making like crazy mecha anime. I think their magnum opus, and it being the last anime Gainax made before I think they went bankrupt or they it dissolved, was Gurren Lagann. Gurren Lagann was an anime, or is an anime that came out in 2007. It is directed by Hiroyuki Imaishi, who also, I believe, did the character designs for all the characters. And he also works. He's one of the people who left from Gainax and founded Studio Trigger. So he's responsible for Kill la Kill, for Promare, for even if you watch Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which was done by Studio Trigger, he directed Cyberpunk Edge Runners. And Gurren Lagann was written by the playwright Kazuki Nakashima. Now, I know we have like this thing where we talk about, the manga, but this is actually an original anime production that spun off into a manga. It's a mecha anime, potentially one of the greatest, I think, in my opinion, mecha anime ever created. It takes place in a semi post apocalyptic future where humanity has all burrowed underground. They're all living in these sort of caves, these villages underground, because the above ground has been taken over by the Lord Genome of the Spiral. I believe of the Spiral race. He's the Spiral King, Lord Genome. It really centers around these two characters, Kamina and Simone, who live in this underground village. Kamina has dreams of reaching the above world, the surface world. He has memories of the surface world. And Simone is a digger. He lives in a village where all they do is dig for minerals and things like that they can barter with other villages to survive. But Simone is known as he's just a kid. He's a digger. That's usually all he does. And him and Kamina have this big brother little brother relationship where where Simone sort of idolizes and follows after Kamina. Their settlement is beset by what is known as I think a gunman, which are these like mecha metal creatures. They're piloted, of course, but they they're shaped like big faces. And Simone finds a gunman in one of the tunnels, and he discovers Lagan, and then that thus projecting the story forward from there. Upon finding Lagan, Lagan activates because Simone finds this drill key to activate it. And using the power of Lagan, they defeat the gunman that shows up, and that's where they meet Yoko Littner, who is fighting the gunman with her like high-powered rifle. And the three of them go to the surface, and they go on this adventure to, and they find themselves caught up in this war between the humans and the Spiral King and the Spiral King's forces. And so, in order to liberate themselves, they decide to fight the Spiral King and his army with Lagan. And you'll eventually see where Gurren comes in and things like that. But yeah, that was like my long-winded.
No, I love it. Nothing makes me happier than people talking about the shows that they love, because the concept of this show is kind of like when people are like, if you had a TED Talk, 30 minutes, unprepared, what could you talk about?
What would you say? What would it be about? Yeah.
So it's so funny because I had been at the panel Anime NYC with Victoria, who hosts the Moonies Club podcast, which I think you've also been on, and she's a huge fan. So she was like, "Oh, I'll tell you about it," and I never like put together that it was a mecha anime.
Yeah, it's a mecha anime. Yeah.
So as you're talking, I just go on Google Images and try to identify the characters, and it just seems so familiar. And I know back in like the early 2000s, I was just watching whatever was whatever was called anime that I had access to. So it seems familiar, but I'm like, have I seen some of this? I also suffer from amnesia when I watch stuff in the early 2000s.
Sometimes, yeah, I do too. I'm like, oh wait, I watched this show.
And you're like, and are there shows that I know that I've sat down and watched start to finish, and I'm like, I can't tell you a single plot point.
Yeah, I have no idea. I try to tell people to watch Eden of the East. Like Eden of the East is another anime. I'm like, everybody's sleeping on Eden of the East, and I think people should watch it. When people go, what's it about? I go, there's a kid and he has a phone and he can do stuff with the phone, and that's about all I can recall. But I know it's a good show.
I've seen it too. I've seen that start to finish. I can't tell you. I remember the phone.
Yeah, the phone's cool.
Maybe that show had something in it at the end that caused us to have amnesia. But I looked through my Annie list and I'm like, when did I watch this? What was it about? But back to the show that I will no longer say the name of, because now that I'm self-conscious about it, I'm just gonna make up new.
I'm gonna mess it up.
So, how did you get introduced to the show?
I literally kind of like what we were talking about. I was on Netflix one day, and Netflix had a show called Gurren Lagann, and it was a mecha. And I think I was just in a mecha. I was just in a mecha mood, like. At that time, I think I had either like just rewatched, or I was thinking I want something similar to Code Geass. I think I was trying to watch like other mecha anime. I think I was really just trying to get into more mecha. I think maybe I was trying to watch Gundam Unicorn at the time. So like Netflix, I turned it on and I was like, okay, I wonder what this is, and then I was hooked. I think I binged it in like a few days. So it was like I just discovered it through Netflix, and then that was it. That was it.
So you watch it on Netflix, you binge it, as many of us do. Sometimes when you get that good show, like you just gotta.
And I think what it is, I think I can to make it a little more spicy and make it a little more interesting, the story. Like as at that time, I probably wasn't working as much in voiceovers. So as a aspiring voice actor, you turn on the show and you hear, Yuri Lowenthal is like, he was in one of the first jobs I've ever done. So he like holds a special place in my heart and I just love his work. I just love his voice. I love his voice work. I think he's so good, and I always was like, he deserves more lead roles, especially in anime. And he plays he's Simone, and so you turn on an anime and you hear one of your voiceover idols start speaking, and you kind of sit to also like study and pay attention. It also has like a star-studded cast. It's Yuri Lowenthal, Kyle Bear plays Kamina, and that's like Gohan. Sam Riegel is I forget his Viral. And Lord Genome, the dulcet tones of I think it's Michael McConaughey. It's either Michael McConaughey. I know it's not Epcar. Um, but yeah, and then you've got Steve Bloom's in it. Hynden Walsh is in it. It's a great cast. So yeah.
I think too that time, like the early 2000s, like a lot of the voice actors, they're just so iconic, especially back then. Like dubbed anime, I felt like sometimes felt so rare to come across, and then you're just like, oh my god, who's this? That was our Beyonce. Back in the day. So when you watch it, you binge it, you're obviously enjoying it. When did it reach like favorite territory? When was like, or was there a certain moment where you're like, nah, this is going to be one of my top anime?
Favorite territory? Okay, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't watched it, but something critical happens in episode 7. And you go, no way they're going to do that. No. And like the show continues and you go, what? And you're like, what are they going to do? That's such a bold choice to make. And I think that's what kept me hooked. I was like, this completely changes everything. It changes the whole trajectory of the show. And this was also one of those shows where I think I often return to the end. Like, this is one of those shows, they're big speeches all the time and catchphrases, right? So, like, whenever you hear, like, the movies came out in theaters and I went to go watch them. And I remember, okay, because let me preface this. The thing that cemented it as, like, this is one of my top of all time. In the final battle, in the final battle, in the last episode of the show, at the apex of the fight, they bring in the intro. They bring in, and it's gonna be fire when they bring the intro music into
you get
the
like
fight.
Goosebumps. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, crazy.
it's like, and then the speeches are happening at the same time, and it's in line with the fighting, and like I was like, oh, this is cinema. This is like anime don't do this all the time. How like at the end of Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, something crazy happens, and it's like you are my special. It's like, dang, like that has stuck with me for the rest of the show. It was like the same thing. Like the intro started as the fight started getting ramped up, and now you're excited and you're into it. And so, and for the movies, they re-released they re-released the show as 2 movies, to like sort of be like not abridged, but like they sort of condensed all 27 episodes into 2 movies, which is the first arc of the show and the second arc of the show. And they edited it so it would make sense, and then they added some stuff. They added some scenes. So in the movie, the second movie, they did the same end fight with the same song, right? And it's getting ramped up, and they're doing the speech, and the whole show there's this catchphrase of like, "Who the hell do you think I am?" Right? And Kamina says it all the time, and then Simon eventually grows to take on the catchphrase, and so he says it to the final villain. I mean, they all say it, as they're doing this speech about humanity, and at this point they've lost some members, and they're saying as we lament these people and as we fight for the future, humanity. Will always, life and death spirals like a helix. That's how a drill works, because Simon's a digger. And he's like, who the hell do you think? And I'm screaming it in the theater. Who the hell do you think you are? It's those sorts of moments of real sort of messages about hope and humanity, interweaved with these really cool sort of just gangster catchphrases that I think really cements it as an incredible anime, and that's why it's sort of one of my top. It's just so well done. It's just so you could tell all the passion that the team put into the show, and into the storytelling. It's amazing.
That gave me chills. I love.
Yes,
I'm that emotional to begin with, though. Yeah, so you tell me there's a monologue, there's a the music. Once the music, you're just like.
I know, but once the opening and the goosebumps, and then it's They play the whole song too. It's like crazy.
You're
It's
like, I
so
didn't
and
know this song was this long.
yeah,
So
and like
hard.
it's like one of those things where I would just go back on YouTube and just but Gurren Lagann ending fight just to experience that moment over and over again. It's so amazing.
See, you're one of my own because I do that with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. There's a
Mm.
certain scene. Have you seen? I know,
Yeah,
like
I've seen it.
I say that, but I also just recently saw it, like in 2019, so it's not that crazy of a question. But I always go to the scene where, and this is spoilers, but I mean it's been a long time, but
Mm.
where Al realizes, not Al, oh my god, what's
Mm.
his? It is Al. Alphonse realizes that he has to sacrifice himself to give Ed his arm, and then
Mm.
when he's like tells Lee like, "Yo, let's go," like, and
Yeah.
then Ed is like, "What have you?" Like I rewatch
Yeah.
that all like
Mm.
every month. Like I go on my account and it's at that part because it just
Right.
is like it's waiting for me. So when you say you go on YouTube, I'm like, I see you because I do
Yeah,
that.
you have this. Like I have just. There's a specific
Just that
moment. It's
part.
like for me for Full Metal, it's when he finds Alphonse in the door, like behind the
Mm-hmm.
door. Alphonse's body. It's all like skinny and disheveled, and like the hands take him away, and then he breaks back, and he's like, "Well, I'll come back for you. You wait for me." I'm like, "Ugh." And then at that point, like the ending
Mm-hmm.
song starts to kick in as he goes in this monologue about like, "Just wait for me. I'm gonna come back for you." I'm like, this show is so good.
It just
Yeah,
like gets you, and it's like,
yeah.
and I mean, this kind of is gonna go into the next question because I feel like you've answered it. But like, when you think of this show, obviously you're going on YouTube, you're watching it, like the
Mhm.
ending. What
Yeah.
about it? Because I'm sure people were ecstatic that they announced these movies. What about
Yeah.
it in the story do you think makes it so timeless that you're going back on YouTube, you're watching this, you've got hype for the movie to go see it in theaters, even though you kind
Yeah.
of already saw like the whole show?
I think Gurren Lagann, and rewatching the movies reestablished to me why. Like the movies were just released in America, but remember, this show came out in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
These movies were originally created, and they originally came out, and if I'm not mistaken, 2009. So this is almost like 17. We're getting close to 20 years later, and people are still. I remember all the 40X showings for the movie were sold out. Like in my theater, most of the seats were taken. Like this is like I wasn't the only one yelling at the screen. Like this resonated with everyone for some reason. And I think it's because, and I always think like people, one, I just feel like the team just wanted to make a good show. They just wanted to make a good story. And like people can always sense that. They can always sense when like just people's passion are inside the artwork they're consuming. And I think it'll always make them connect with it more. But I think it's able to balance good storytelling. There's a lot of twists. There's a lot of like things that you just like didn't see coming in the storytelling. There's a lot of like things you don't expect. They take a lot of risks, and the stakes are always high. Every episode, even though there's like lighthearted, like funny moments, every episode is essentially like Kamina and Simon have to make Gurren Lagann and defeat this gunman, or they'll kill them, or and he'll kill them. And they're essentially fighting a war. They're essentially fighting a war for humanity's freedom in every episode. So like there's that, and they always like they can ground these moments. There's this like budding romance with Kamina and Yoko, and then Simone is like a little bit younger, but he has this crush on Yoko, and it has these effects on him as a teenager, going through puberty and discovering he likes girls, and there's these real moments of humanity that's blended into these like crazy over the top, like brilliantly animated scenes. Like the mecha, Gurren Lagann as a mecha is a mecha that like they steal other gunmen, and like it grows bigger in size as it steals other gunmen. So it's like, okay, Simon, we're gonna take over that ship. That ship is gonna be ours. And when Gurren Lagann takes it over, it like assimilates it into its body, and it becomes a bigger, crazier mecha. And it just builds on top of itself in every season, every episode. So it's like it does. It's like the biggest, most over the top mecha anime I've ever seen. Like, there's nothing like it. Like, there's at the end of the show, the two like Gurren Lagann and like the final bad guy are literally throwing universes at each other. Like, that is the where it goes. Like, he attacks the final villain attacks Gurren Lagann with the equivalent power of a Big Bang. Like, that's where they take it. And I think, like, for these reasons, all combined, and like the strength of the characters of Kamina and Simon, and like this catchphrase that they have, and how it's at its core a story about keep going, about like keep moving forward, and the hope of humanity, and like how humans always deserve like another chance, is all interweaved in this one show. It's great.
I knew like that it was a banger when you were like, in episode 7 this twist happened, because to have
Yeah,
a twist happen so early where
so
you're
early.
like, wait a minute, like this, because usually
Yeah,
twists they save them for the end, but I think
same for the end.
something that
No,
you spoke to too about it being an original anime, and I know like a lot, and it's funny because I've had a couple episodes haven't been released yet, people were talking about original anime too, and I'm like, it's so weird because I guess I wasn't really aware that original anime sometimes has like a negative, like a lot of people are like don't really trust it because there's not like a manga to kind of judge, like, well, the manga
yeah,
was super popular so this is gonna be a hit.
right,
So I
right.
feel like for an original anime to just do like put these, and I mean they were limitless in the sense because they don't have to follow like a source of material or anything,
Right.
but for it to be so intense, like now I felt like, because I do like Studio Trigger stuff, so I'm like, maybe like I this show is for
Yeah.
other people, but maybe it's to convince me to watch stuff
Yeah.
because it sounds so
It's so
good.
it led to Studio Trigger's formation.
Hmm.
And so like you'll see Gurren Lagann's DNA in Kill la Kill, and you'll see Gurren Lagann's DNA in Promare. And I think so. If you want like what Studio Trigger is sort of known for, because now it was Gainax, and as of like 2021, I believe, like the rights went to Studio Trigger for Gurren Lagann, but like that was like Gainax's like magnum opus, I believe, and it led to the formation of Studio Trigger after Gainax dissolved.
They put the work in. They said,
Yeah, even like in the interviews of the movie, like the producers and the director were like reflecting on like wow, it's been this many years, and they're even saying like we don't know if we'll be able to do something like that again. Like, we just knew at that time we were young, we were hungry, and we just wanted to make something really really good, and that's what came of it. Like, we didn't know it was going to be amazing. We didn't place any expectations on it to be amazing or to be this like worldwide phenomenon. We just wanted to make like something really really good that would like sort of stand the test of time. Like, we were just like young and hungry, and I really really respect that. You could see it in all of it. Even the new stuff they added for the movies is like, wow. Like, I don't know. Like, how like sometimes you'll look at the MAPPA animators and you'd be like, they don't sleep at night. Like, how do they? But like what they produce is incredible, right? It's like the same thing. It's like, how do human hands make something this good?
it's so touching what you said a little bit too about like somebody's like creativity. Like, you just tell when you watch something and you consume something.
Yeah,
And I'm like, this is really it, because it's just like when it affects you. Like, obviously those events are never gonna happen in real life, but it's something
right.
that like you just feel the passion through the screen and through the storytelling. Like, it really feels like magic. Like, it feels
Yeah,
so like your
exactly.
skin is
You can
tingling
tell.
watching it.
You can always. I feel like people, and it's something I fully believe. You can tell when people are putting passion and care into something, especially anime. Anime is one of those things where you could tell off the bat that things not gonna. I've worked on anime where I was like, episode one, this show's not gonna be good. Man, this show is not gonna be good. And you could tell like when you're like, oh, this is something special. Like, this is something special. I think one of those like, speaking of, because like I was gonna talk about Jujutsu Kaisen, that was just one of those things that I just knew would be good. I was like, I was reading the manga, like, if this gets an anime, it's gonna pop. And I called it. I did say the One Punch Man. I was like, if this gets an anime, it's gonna pop. Yeah, But like, what happened, they changed studios, and I'm sure the people at JC Staff did really the best they could. And there are some scenes that are really well done, but like you get like the difference is like you hear how like the people at Madhouse, like the animators at Madhouse, were just all pulled straight from school, like, and so there were people who are hungry to get on their first anime, and you can see it in the animation. JC Staff might have had more seasoned people or more experienced people who were kind of used to the work grind and just kind of did, like they did their job, right? They did a good job, right? But there's a reason why people compare the seasons so much and why people sort of prefer season one.
I think too, something that like, and you obviously have this knowledge, and I think people know, but they don't, like, a lot of Americans like idolize Japan. And it's kind of like the same, like, at the end of the day, anime is a business, right? Like, like Pokemon, Digimon, like, those anime were created to sell toys. And at the end of the day, it's a product, and a lot of people really forget that, because here, like, it's unlike anything that we have. So it's like, oh my God, anime, it's so different. It's like, we put it on a pedestal, but it's the same as American TV shows. So, you got The Wire, and then you have something else that people not watching. Right? What is it? Empire. Like, it's always, though, I think people forget that, but it is something like, yes, their goal is to make money, but when they, like, like, you have a hit, like, Jujutsu Kaisen was something, like, I never thought I would be into, because I don't like scary stuff, and I'm like, oh wait, this ain't scary, like, this is, like, but it's like, you can tell when they have, like, Yuri on Ice, which is, Mappa's, like, Mappa basically funded their pockets, and it's like, they did something so special, and you can just, and I'm like, bring it back. Where's the movie?
Where is it? It's always, you could tell. Like, you could tell when, like, they put their heart and soul into something, and you could tell when they're just like, I think it's in everything. It's in every art form. Like, I can tell, like, in voice acting, I'm like, okay, he was just hitting his marks, or this act, or even in myself, I could tell, like, man, I was really locked in this line, or I'll be like, nah, I was just kind of doing my job in this one, can always sort of tell.
There's always gonna be that marker, but with the show that will remain nameless for me, obviously we're talking about, this has been around since the 2000s. It's original anime. When you see conversations of the show, because it's kind of like when you didn't know about something, and like now that like I heard about it, I've seen it everywhere since November, and I'm like, okay, mad people were watching this and no one told me. What is something that you think that people get wrong about the show?
I think something people get wrong about Gurren Lagann is, like, especially with characters like Yoko. I mean, it has its moments, I'm not gonna lie, with like Yoko. Like the whole movie stuff, right?
Fan service.
But I think, like, some people will go, I'm not really a big mecha fan. And I don't necessarily know, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know what people's beef is with cool robots. But I think, like, at the end of the day, it's not just a mecha show. Just because it's this over the top show where, like, it ends with them throwing universes at each other, doesn't mean that there's no message or there's no heart or there's no soul. Like, the show covers grief, it covers loss, it covers idealization, there's romance, and there's what do you do with grief? What do you do when you compare yourself to someone who is better than you? How do you measure up? How do you become your own person? There's hope, there's humanity, there's lessons about, like, moving forward and moving on, like, throughout the entirety, and growing up and maturing, like, throughout the entirety of the show. And I think, like, that, I think it's sometimes what people get wrong about Gurren Lagann. Like, it's not just a, over the top mecha fighter fan servicey show. Like, a lot of real human stuff happens throughout the entirety of it.
I had someone else talk about a mecha that is, the episode hasn't come out yet, but the show is Erica 7. It's a
Erica 7.
Yeah, a mecha, and that was their thing that people get wrong too about mecha, and I feel like I don't know if it's culturally because I feel like mecha culture in Japan is very different from like here. Like I feel like mechas in Japan is like us with SVUs. Like we got SVU Law and Order. Like we got
Yeah.
Law and Order
Yeah.
this, Law and Order that. Like it's
Right.
just our procedural shows because it's
Yeah.
like there's so many mecha and a lot of mecha too. Like people just it don't really think about it, and it's like I personally like. I'm like robots are so cool.
Yeah.
Like,
I
giant
think
robots that you're in.
I think like like some people go, oh, it's just mecha, so it's just robots fighting, and I don't want to see like a lot of robots fighting. Especially like I feel like when people think mecha, they think like Gundam, right? It's like, oh, it's just gonna be a lot of space and flying around, and like I'm not really into that, and like with like because out here it's like Gundam and Gundam's so cool, and it's like if you watch Gundam, the message of Gundam is war is bad. Like that's the message of Gundam is like war is bad, and it like pulls in the lives of kids and turns them into soldiers serving a cause they never asked for because some tragedy befell their life. Amuro Ray is probably one of the most like mentally traumatized people who need therapy. Like he watched, like Mecha invade his home and kill his parents, and like so he had to get in this robot to fight back to save his family, to save all the people that he had left. And then over the course of every Gundam anime he was the star in, everyone around him died.
Oh
Like
my god.
even if you play like Dynasty Warriors, like if you play any of the Gundam Dynasty Warriors, like through the story, like I was like shocked at how many people were dying. Like people you could play as in the game. Like it was like, oh, this character, he's in love with her, she dies. This character, like he's in love with her, she dies. Oh, this guy was his friend, he dies. Like Gundam is like war is bad, and then like and it forces like people who have lives to fight in it and die for like a cause that they like for something they didn't ask for. Like what is the purpose of it's really dark. Like at its heart, Gundam is really like about like the tragedy of war. Like if you've ever watched Iron Blooded Orphans, which like people love Iron Blooded Orphans, same thing. These kids,
They're always kids. They can't
yeah,
find nobody
always
else.
kids. They found this robot to free themselves from slavery, but they couldn't free themselves completely because then it was like we have no money. So then they had to become mercenaries and fight for things that mattered nothing, that like for the political advancement of like there's classism, so there's like political advancement of people above them who like are making these kids fight on their behalf because they politically can't do it, and like so these kids are dying to live, like dying just to be free of their captivity. It's like that's Gundam, like that's Gundam at its heart. Like it may be cool, to look at, like to see aesthetically, and like cool to have these like cool space fights, but like at the core of it, like it's dark. Like at the core of it is.
That's very.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything Gundam, and now I'm scarred for life.
Yeah, if you watch any Gundam thing, you'll go, oh man, that was crazy.
That
Like
was sad.
that was sad. Yeah, I thought this was gonna be a cool show about like flying robots in space. Like it's not just that. Like it's about war. Like like how we see war now.
You know what? Maybe like Mecha's like the ticket for people that it's like, man, I want to break into this industry. I don't know how. And I have
Yeah,
this great story, but no one wants the story. Let me
yeah.
add robots.
Right? Robot, of course, of course. Like if it was just about the military, nobody would watch it,
No,
right?
nobody cares.
I want to see, this is too real, right? This is too real. This is too. I watch anime to escape. So they go, how do we funnel this into a way that is digestible? Yeah, giant robots with lasers and beam swords, of course.
That only teens can
That
get in.
only teenagers can pilot.
And yeah, you know what? This is justice for Mecha. We need people. This is the Mecha agenda,
Yeah, I'm
specifically. We
pushing that.
we need people to literally
There's
get in
some
the robot.
It's some of the best stories. Evangelion's all existentialism and like humanity and what is life and why are we here and what are and like Code Geass is all politics and martyrdom and what do you do to free your people? How far will you go to free your people from captivity? What lengths will you make? What risks will you take? Like Gurren Lagann, I think if you want something less depressing, Gurren Lagann is your ticket. Like Gurren Lagann is ultimately a story about hope and humanity and moving forward through tragedy. And the main theme song is whoa, whoa, fight the power. Like it's all how to break through oppression and break through other people's expectations and limitations on you, and even the ones you put on yourself. It's great.
I love it. I hope more people, this is going to be the mecha agenda and people get on
Yeah.
board because it's there. But in the fandom, like considering other people who like Gurren Lagann, what is an opinion that you have on the show that like is unpopular that other fans wouldn't agree with you about?
An unpopular opinion about the show? I don't know.
I don't know, it's a hard question.
This is a hard question.
Or even like a theory that you thought something that you maybe other people didn't see it that same way.
I feel like I would unfairly, because I don't know other people's feelings. I feel like I would think that people unfairly compare Simone and Kamina, right? Like people would see Simone as a person who cannot match up, like no matter what he does, like even when he's older, cannot match up to the charisma, to the energy, to Kamina, right? Like, and even I think the character of Simone himself was always sort of comparing himself to Kamina, and this sort of big, larger than life figure that Kamina is, and Simone can seem pretty boring in comparison. And I think that was something that the movies changed in me when I rewatched it. I even went in like, dang, yeah, like I really like Kamina, and it can make it seem like Simone up until the very end is like kind of like a more boring character, a more sort of placid character. But I think when I rewatching the movie, there was a lot of little things that spoke to Simone's character, because one could assume that Kamina has more character than Simone. Like Kamina is more full-rounded, more personality than Simone. But I think Simone's determination is not better, but Kamina is like very faux pas, like very like he puts on this face to be this thing, which now that I'm thinking about it, may not even be how he actually feels, because he has this conversation with Yoko. Whereas Simone actually is that. Like Simone gets determined. There's like someone says like, oh, when Simone puts his mind on something, that's what he's gonna do, and like that's like links back to him being a digger. Like when he starts drilling, he's not gonna stop until he gets through the other side. And I think that's something Kamina can only do so far, right? Kamina, so I think Simone as a character has just as much nuance and just as much depth, and is just as interesting as Kamina. And I think some people, people really love Kamina, but I think like in being enraptured by like the showmanship and the boisterousness that Kamina puts on, some people can forget about like the inner life that Simone has, that's just as in depth and just as like complex. And it can be even more interesting when he's faced with saving the world at the end of season 2, at the end of the second core, or in the second core.
That's so beautiful. I'm looking at pictures of them together to get like an image of what you're saying. And I think
Yeah.
too, kind of like the even like the design where it's like they kind of
Mhm.
complement each other in look, but like
Yeah.
the character Kamina's like out there, like even just his
Okay.
outfit, he got the muscles like
Yeah, and it's like very easy to sort of get, and I feel like that's something Simone experienced in the first season. Like it's very easy to get distracted and wrapped up in a Kamina, and everyone did it. Like everyone did it. And so then when it was like time for like Simone to sort of take on the mantle of Gurren Lagann, I feel like the audience can sort of get in this thing of I miss Kamina, and I think that is also like an important through line for the show. It makes it makes missing Kamina like really present, but I think it makes them sort of not like identify with the totality of Simone and the character of Simone. And he can be kind of hot-headed, and he's very determined, and he's the one who ends up like saving the whole world and saving the universe and saving multiple universes. But I think there's like a humility and a humbleness. He never wanted really to be a fighter. Like he's just a guy. Like he's just a digger. He just sort of came into this responsibility and he saw it through to the end. And I think like that is just as in depth. That's just important. It's just as interesting, if not more interesting, I think, than sort of Kamina's sort of showmanship. That he puts on.
I love that, and I think, obviously not having seen the show, but that kind of like trope too, where often like when you are watching anime, there's only one. So there's one main character. They're either like larger than life, obviously the main character, or the main character is like a Simone, where it's like the quiet type growing into who they're going to be. So it must be so, I mean, like just obviously hearing you talk about it, but having both of those dynamics at the same time in a show where it's like they're competing against each other. Because usually, the person, the underdog, they're just competing against themselves to try to like be better. But then you have this person you're comparing yourself to in the show. And then people watching, obviously they're going to do the comparisons too. Yeah. I like that. I like that relationship too, where I love that trope of like, yes, we work together and we admire each other, but there's just a little bit thing too where I kind of wish I was like you.
Yeah, it's so evident. Like, I mean, like Simone calls Kamina big bro. He's like, call me big bro. I'm your big bro. So throughout the whole of it, Kamina is always like, yeah, there's a part in the show where Simone starts doubting himself and Kamina punches him. And he's like, anytime you start to doubt yourself, I'm going to deck you one. Like, believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, believe in the me that believes in you. So there's also this through line message of like believing in yourself, but like if you can't believe in the other people who believe in you, and that's who you fight for, right? And so like Kamina is like, believe in the Kamina that believes in you. If you idolize me so much, I believe that you can do it. So believe in that, and that's what'll take you through. And like so Simone like sort of like is like, wow, he's so amazing, and how will I ever like measure up or compare to the shining star that is Kamina, And I think at some point he doesn't try anymore because he knows he's another person. He knows he's a different person.
That is so touching. Like I get emotional because I'm a very emotional person, but sometimes like personally, like if I'm like stuck in something, I'm like, this friend believes in me. Like they know that I can do it. And I sometimes I feel like you, like the fact that he said like, if you don't believe in self, believe in the me that believes
in you. I know. Gurren Lagann, baby. Gurren Lagann, man. I know.
That's such a concept that is so rare too. Because it's like either people believe in you or you believe in yourself, but to channel that, like you at a moment where you can't get out of your own head, think about, that's so beautiful. I know. Yep. I love that. It just like gets me so excited because that's so because I'm like I literally do that, like if my friends, like if my friends would like, you have a moment where they're like, man, I didn't do a good job at this, I'm like, don't talk about my friend like that. Like Lisa wouldn't think this.
Like, hey, stop talking to my friend that way. Like I know my friend did a good job, and like sometimes that's what you need. It's like I've been there where it's just been like even sometimes with acting, it's like, oh man, I can't, all these other people, they think this highly of me, like I can't let them down. I can't, blah, blah. I can do this for myself, but I also like can recognize I also have like the hopes and the weights of other people, like what they, how much they believe in me, right? Like it's like when you're sad and you're like, not to take it there like that far, but it's like, like, I don't know, mental health is a huge issue. And like some people when they're like, oh, like I would kill myself, but I know that it would make such and such people sad. Like I know like it would hurt such and such people's I know it would hurt them. So I have to keep trying. I have to be better. I have to get better for them, those people who believe in me and see value in me and love me, so I can repay that, and like I think there's something to be said about that, to be said like, oh, it will make them sad, so like I can't, not yet, I can keep going. I can keep going for them, and then hopefully I can find my own reason to keep going.
Yes, that reminds me of this manga. It's it's my favorite manga of all time. It's called XXX Holic. That I learned people say Holic. Because it's an anime, but the anime I feel like doesn't go as far as the manga does. And one of the themes of that is like that you're so connected. Like, even if you like don't talk to anybody, you're a loner. Like, our lives are so intertwined with other people. Like, there isn't an action that we do that isn't like directly gonna affect somebody. And like the example that you said, like if you're feeling suicidal, if you're feeling, like, man, like I can't go on, like you think of the people, like there's a lot of people in your life that would be affected by that. Not that in the sense like, oh, you owe it to them, but it is a thought that a lot of people have. And one of the main themes, like, that the main character learns, it's like he's a very like, I'll do anything for my friends or whatever. So he gets kind of in this situation where he, like, his eye was stolen by a spider. Sounds so crazy, but his eye's stolen by a spider. And everybody in the magical world is like, we gotta get this thing. And this girl who likes him goes to the spider and basically essentially is like, the spider keeps her hostage, and he shows up and he's like, oh, is that it? You want my eye? Here, have the other eye, have my arm, have my leg. And the spider is like, what are you telling this girl here who literally is risking her life, and yet you're so easily offering other pieces of yourself? Like, how little do you value yourself? Meanwhile, this person is basically sacrificing themselves to save this one little part of you, and you so easily would throw it away. And now I'm like, like, I mean, the manga has stuff like that, but it's kind of like that theme where it's like you're so connected to people, and sometimes like I do, like, people are like, I'm a loner, I don't care about people, people don't care about me, but it's like there are people who care about you, and that is in essence being part of a community where your actions affect others and their actions affect you. And it's like it can be like a scary thing, but it's also a positive thing where it's like you can't think to go on for you. You're like, man, I know Zeno loves me and appreciates me. I'm gonna go on for him.
Yeah, and it's also like those are the reasons that get you there, right? You go, I'm not loved, I'm not appreciated, I don't matter, nobody would mind if I left, right? Nobody would miss me if I were gone, and that sucks, right? Like feeling like I don't belong, I don't fit in, and no one cares. Sometimes we just be like, sometimes we as people just need to know someone cares. Like we just need to know we're valued. So like you get there and then you think of, oh, well, all these people would be affected. Oh, maybe all these people do value me. Oh, maybe I am loved. Okay, like for them, like I can keep, even if I don't like necessarily like myself right now, like I keep going because they find whatever it is that they like about me. So like I'll continue on to try to like to connect with them more, I'll stay for them, and then you eventually learn how to stay for yourself, hopefully.
Yes, I love that because I think it's a line in a song. I think it's an Ariana Grande song, when she's like, I would love to see myself from your point of view, to see all the beautiful things that you see about me. And it's like that, like your friends reflect that on I guess so. I'm such an emotional person. Everything makes me want to cry, but I love that. And I think it's kind of goes into our last question, but I mean, there's multiple legacies that this show can have. So when you think about, oh my God, now I can't even say it. I said it like, I said it so many times. Gurren Lagann. I was saying it right. I did it. Yeah. So when you think about Gurren Lagann, after all these years we talked about, and the movies just came out, the movies are packed. What do you think the legacy of this anime is, and why after so long it's still so impactful and it continues to impact people?
I think it's just a great story. I think with all the things I've said to you, these catchphrases that are really catchy but really deep. Believe in the me that believes in you. Screw the impossible. Do what it takes to make the impossible possible. Who the hell do you think I am? Simone's final speech in the end of the end of the show about the people you've lost and the people and the future to come, it all interweaving in a double helix to tomorrow. My drill is the drill that'll pierce the heavens. My drill is the drill that creates the heavens. My drill is the drill that'll that'll drive us to tomorrow. There's like all of these like really, really deep, meaningful like sayings in the show that's like interwoven with this really, really great story that's told in this very entertaining way with crazy action mecha. There's a moment where Simon and Kamina run into this rival, Viral, and he shows up in this crazy gunman, and they're like, that gunman's so freaking crazy, and he beats them, but they narrowly escape with their lives, and they're afraid to fight him again. and like Kamina is like, nah, we have to get past this guy, I'm a steal a gunman and blah blah blah. So then they create, that's the first transformation of Gurren Lagann, and they do this gangster thing where they're fighting, they kick Viro's gunman's helmet off, put the helmet on, because they break, like, he has this like circle thing that shoots a laser, they break it, steal his helmet, and then switch mid monologue, mind you, like Kamina is talking crazy, like, you think you had us? Absolutely not, boy. We're Gurren Lagann. We're the guys who go take us to tomorrow. Take the helmet, change the color to Gurren Lagann, Gurren Lagann's colors, and boom, hit him with the pose. I think it's just like all like, there's like really amazing moments like that. It's just like, wow, I'm entertained, but I'm also touched, but I'm also like, it makes me excited. I'm rooting for these guys. And then you can see Gurren, like I said earlier, like you see Gurren Lagann's DNA in everything Studio Trigger's made afterward. You can see it in Kill la Kill. You can definitely, Promare is like the one where we're just like, oh, like, Gallo looks just like Kamina. And shout out to the late Billy Kometz, who was absolutely amazing and incredible. And I, even now, I was thinking about it when we were watching the movie. It was like, it's like Kamina. Like, Billy Kometz was such this incredible voice actor who, the performance of a lifetime in Gallo, and it's like that's a star that like will never be replicated. So it kind of hits a little closer to home now with like stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think that's just why. Gainax was an incredible animation studio, and now Studio Trigger is one of like the top animation studios. Everything, like, almost have not missed. Everything they've put out has gone up. I feel like, with the exception of maybe like Kisniver, but Kisniver was a good show. I mean, it was good. It was still good. Like, it was still animated really well. It was a really interesting concept. But yeah, I think like that's the legacy it has. It was one of those like early 2000s anime that just, there was nothing like it at the time, and I think there's been nothing like it since, and I just think that's why it's so incredible.
I love it. I love how passionate you are about it. And I can say, like, obviously not having seen the show, but how you're talking about it and what you're describing, it is not something that like them lines, they were bangers. Like, I feel like I'm about, like, you know how people be waiting for a Drake album to get captions? Like, these gotta be some of my captions. I need to watch since before somebody calls me out and they're like, what episode did that happen in? But it's just like, that is the ascent. Like, this is what I love about this medium, and like talking to people about the anime that they love, because it's like just the excitement, and like I know what you're talking about, like those scenes that are like burned in your memory, like they altered your brain chemistry. Like, you're not the same person anymore.
No, core memories. Like, wow, I remember where I was when I watched the last episode of Gurren Lagann, and I was like, it was like one of those things where the final battle happens, all that happens, and then the show ends, and you go, wow, like, that was, it's over, and I'm sad. That was incredible. What do I do? Like,
how do you go on after this?
There's some shows and you're like, good show, okay, cool, and now it's time to play a game. Like that was one of those ones where it was just like, I was like, what do I do? Even when I went to the movie, I left the movie like, I love that. I love this franchise so much. I love Gurren Lagann so much. Like, I was out skipping, like doing the live. Oh, it's so good. I just like, man, it's so good. Like, it still holds up. Like, you would think that show came out last year, the animation, it just still holds up.
It just, and that's again the test of, when people make things and they put their whole like passion and creativity in it, like other people see that and connect to it. And it's just like, it's so good. I love it. And I thank you so much for putting me on, and all of us on.
Problem.
I know a couple people, like I said, that love this anime. So they're going to be very excited that, like when you recognize one of your own, like the Gurren Lagann Hive, they're ready.
They're ready. It's so good.
The mecha people, they're ready. But so thank you so much for, bringing this anime. And I like, again, like we were talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, which we all love, but one, it's very emotionally traumatic right now, and two, I'm not ready. And I think this was a much better
Yeah, good little pick me up. Good little pick me up. Agreed.
Yes. So as we are closing up,
Okay.
is there anything that you want to promote that people should go and watch or find you? It's so hard to find you. You're nowhere.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, I'm in two games that came out recently for consoles and PC. One of those being Grand Blue Fantasy Relink and Persona 3 Reload, all the Re's. Grand Blue Fantasy versus the character I play, Vayne, will be playable in April if you're a fighting game fan. That's like kind of my main bags right now. That's kind of my main things. Like there's not a lot else I can think of that's going on right now.
I was very sad to discover that Persona is not on the Switch right now
Ah,
because
yeah, not yet.
I was like,
There are
oh,
rumors. There are rumors about it coming to the Switch,
I
but
heard that. I'm
yeah.
hopeful because my husband has a PS5 that I can add, like, he's like, I'll buy it for you on there. But I'm like, then I have to learn the remote, and I just like my Switch, and it's
Right.
mine.
I'm about to say it's the same thing. It's kind of not.
I don't get the squares and the
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's so interesting.
I was
I
gonna
can't. No, sorry. What were you gonna say?
no, what were you gonna say?
No, please, please.
I was
Please
just
go.
gonna say that I was like gonna try to play Spider-Man and I couldn't even open the game and I gave up because the
Dang,
buttons
you're
are
like,
too different.
how do you work this confangled contraption? I understand. I had PlayStation growing up, and then like during like I think the third generation console, like what it was Xbox and PS3, I had an Xbox, and then going back to the PlayStation was really weird, right? When I got a PS3 eventually. But going from PlayStation to Xbox was strange. I was like, what is this controller? Why is it built like this? I don't understand this thing. But yeah.
They do too much. Just tell me what A and B is. That's all.
It's so interesting, like because I've grown up with PlayStation to like know a gamer who's like X square triangle. It's so strange. And it's like, what? That's strange. It's like gaming, gaming. Like I don't know. I don't want to say it. I guess icon, but like it's like that's like you see those letters together. You're like, oh, PlayStation.
Yeah, nope, not me. I try. I mean, did I try hard? No. I could
But
probably
you
try
try.
again.
I get it. I understand. It takes some getting used to. It takes some getting used to.
Well, but maybe I'll just wait. I'll be a little
Yeah.
patient. But it looks good. The parts, I mean, there was fan cams about your character. Like I feel like you made
Yeah.
it when there's fan cams.
That's how you know. I haven't seen them, but that's cool.
Yeah, I've seen like your like Hawks, like fan cams
Seen a
and
couple
stuff.
of those.
But
Mhm.
video game, like you gotta be a
Yeah.
different type of fan.
Yeah, to make a video game fan cam.
Like that's crazy.
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
Because how
It's
do
a
you
lot of
get the
work. Where do you get the time?
right? Like I don't know. I shout out to the people
Shout out to
keeping the
them.
fan cam community.
A lot. Shout out to y'all. Really,
But
really.
to those listening, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of The Wonder of Anime. If you're listening, wherever you're listening, please be sure to give a rating, leave a response. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to join the conversation in the comments and get into these sad life mechas, except for Gurren Lagann. This is not as heartbreaking as the other ones.
Not
but
heartbreak.
but
Not
join us in the sadness. But thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.
Peace.